Very good. It's 5 o'clock, so we will begin. The mayor is joining us by video this afternoon, so please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Shelley.
Kolpak.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Strand. Mahoney.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here. Very good. C is approve the order of agenda. Do we have any comments or changes? Otherwise, do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Oh, and I beg the pardon, we have motion and a second,
Oh.
but the motion moving items number 2A and B and 3 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. I'm
So-
sorry about that.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 regular meeting?
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, do we do roll call for this? Roll call, Shelley.
Strand.
Yes.
Kolpak.
Yes.
Preston.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye. Next up is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 32, excluding items number 2A and B and 3, which have been moved to the regular agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further changes? Roll call, please.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye. Next up is the regular agenda, and the first one is resident comments, and right now we just have one person signed up, and that's Wes Filome. Wes?
It's Wes Filome. Wes Filome, he, him, his pronouns. I'd like to start by saying long live George Floyd and Onue Magic. It has now been 46 days. That's 6 weeks and 4 days since Shane Netterville was gunned down by a member of the Fargo Police Department. Since that time, the family has been held hostage with zero answers so far. This community has been held hostage. An unarmed man was gunned down in our community within seconds of being confronted by Fargo PD. And there's no one talking about it. No one's calling for transparency. We spent the last 2+ years learning from what happened after the murder of George Floyd, thinking that we improved this city. Mayor, you are part of 99% of the conversations that we put together during the oversight committee that we were building. We discussed scenarios. Nancy, you are also part of conversations we had over that time in which we discussed specific scenarios in which this would happen and how we would react to it. And during that time, this outcome was never discussed in any way possible, that we would be here almost 2 months later with no answers whatsoever. When we look across the country, when we look across the river in Minnesota alone, there's incidents that have recently happened where the community has been able to receive some sort of footage, some sort of answers to calm things down, to get things figured out, to bring peace, to the community and family at large. I attended the funeral of Shane Netterville as well as Faith. We got to see firsthand the pain that the family is currently still suffering without having those answers. I just want to know, is something going to happen? Are we going to get this figured out? Is this community going to find out what happened? Or are we going to wait 2, 3, 4, 6 months later and then come to find out something bad happened and there will be more unrest? Please do not forget about Shane Netterville. Thank you.
Very good. I'm moving on to number 35. We're a little bit early on schedule because of excellent leadership, I might add. Let's go to number 35 with Brenda Derrig and Tom Knockmos, the construction update. Brenda.
Good afternoon. Okay. So I'm here today to do our construction update. I am, unfortunately, today I do have a couple of safety incidents to report. On August 15th, we had a construction worker on the 21st Avenue South project that was injured and taken to the hospital by ambulance. The employee broke a bone and received some stitches. He is out of the hospital and is expected to fully recover. It is our understanding OSHA was notified, but it appears that they will not be opening an investigation. The contractor has been proactive and will be doing additional training in response to that incident. And then on August 17th, another construction worker at a different site on 21st Street South was injured and went to the hospital and received stitches, but was released. As we always talk about, you can also find information on our projects online at fargostreets.com, on Facebook, and on Twitter. So our list of completed projects is getting longer, and it will continue to get longer as we keep moving towards the end of the construction season. So we'll keep adding our projects that have been completed into this slide. Our ongoing projects, 13th Avenue South, it is nearly complete, and we'll be beginning grinding pretty soon. 21st Avenue South, Phase 3 and 4 are complete, and they are working in Phase 2 currently. And then on 18th Avenue and 40th Street, Reconstruction, Phase 1, 2, and 3 are complete, and they're working in the 4th phase. On 7th Avenue and Oak Street, 7th Avenue is completely open to the public, and work is taking place on Oak Street south of 7th Avenue. And then on 3rd Avenue and 7th Street, mainline concrete pavement is completed on 3rd, and there are some liquidated damages for failing to meet those interim completion dates that are being charged to this project. 21st Street South, Phase 1 is complete, and they are working in Phase 2. And then our citywide sidewalk project, where the contractor continues to replace the existing sidewalk and then install the new sidewalk. Our asphalt mill and overlay, we have 3 sections remaining on the contract, and they are currently in Rose Creek. We had a hawk installation on 18th Avenue South and University and 32nd Street and 32nd Avenue. And that concrete work is complete, and we're just waiting for the poles to arrive. And then we have our streetlight and traffic signal rehab projects, our citywide pavement marking projects, and then our stormwater outfall repairs that we're working on. On the new development, we have our 64th Avenue overpass. All of the geofoam blocks are installed. The concrete pavement is being placed on the west side of the bridge, and we are working on the roadway and subgrade on the east side, and we did have our first pour on the bridge deck today. 64th Avenue and 45th Street, we have the mainline concrete pavement is complete on 64th and 43rd Street. We are working on the shared use path and final grading, and then we're also working on 45th Street on the north end, and then on the south side, we are working on the subgrade. Veteran Boulevard's paving is complete and just working on some utilities. The Crossroad Corporate Center, all the mainline concrete is complete, and we're working on the ADA ramps and median. And then Rocking Horse Farms, where the new elementary school is going, much of the underground's complete, and the contractor's way on materials to finish the underground. The asphalt work course, all the paving's complete. We're just working on seeding and punch list. The traffic signal at Veterans Boulevard and 37th Avenue South. This is by Cheyenne High School in West Fargo. The concrete work's complete and we're waiting on the traffic signal poles. In Golden Valley, the asphalt pavement and sidewalk this week. There are some liquidated damages being charged to this project also for substantial completion date. And then in Meadowview, we're working on the letter of map revision, which is bringing that land out of the floodplain. We are working up north in Woodcrest on the levee and lift station. And this is from the lift station and then east towards the river with the levee construction. And the levee work is almost complete and we are working on the lift station. We also have two other lift stations we're working on 42nd Street and Drain 27. And currently we're working on the one on the east side of 42nd Street. We do still have projects that will still be starting yet this year. So we have the District of Fargo 4th edition. We have 14.5 Street, which is just south of 1st Avenue North. We have Legacy Edition and then Rocking Horse Paving along with the drain repairs. These projects have dates that will go into next year. Some of those projects do. So we have some photos for you. Here you see the new paving on 7th Avenue and Oak Street. And then this is 3rd Avenue North and 7th Street. So that's, just west of the post office there, between 3rd Avenue and 4th Avenue there. Next, here's a picture of our stormwater outfall repairs. And then our 64th Avenue overpass. You can see the geofoam blocks there. And then here's another photo of the overpass. And then this is our 64th Avenue and 45th Street paving project. And then our Woodcrest levee and lift station. And then these are the lifts. This is the lift station adjacent to 42nd Street, right at Drain 27. And then we threw this in for fun. We had a good picture of the new Park District facility just north of 64th Avenue there. So we added that in as a last photo. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions for Brenda? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. Brenda, it caught my eye when you said 14.5 Street as a new development.
Yes.
A few years back, one of our residents living on one of these streets in South Fargo with a 1/2 address explained to me some of the complications that come with having addresses that are like 14.5. Is that something we need to keep doing? Can't we get rid of these half streets? And I'm not sure who to ask that, but that brings that to my mind. If we're creating new streets
So
and naming
it's-
them half,
It's not a new street.
okay.
So it is a street that exists in right-of-way, but if you've noticed, along Main Avenue, we have right-of-way that's gravel, dirt kind of gravel, that has just never been improved. So there has never been an urban section there. So this was right-of-way that has always been platted, but never improved. So it would be just south of First Avenue between NP and First there, more towards Drecker. There is a street that has never had any improvement. It's a gravel roadway yet. And so this makes those urban improvements to that roadway. So we didn't rename it because you are correct. We do not name streets a half anymore. But it's always been there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Brenda, I have one question for you. On 32nd Avenue North, way at the end towards the river, they're doing some work there. Do you know what that is?
I think it's our stormwater, our storm outfall repairs. So we do have a storm outfall repair project, and that gets very lengthy because there are only specific times we can get to those outfalls to make those repairs. So until that river level gets down, that's when we can get in there. So I think that's what they're working on.
So if you don't mind me asking, so then it's near the river then, and so that's where the drain water goes into the river, and so you can only do that when it's not wet or not raining and things like that? Okay.
Yep, to actually get to that outfall, that river level has to be down.
Okay. Very good. That's great. Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you. And we will kind of move back around and we'll go to the public hearings. And our first one is 34A, hearing on a dangerous building located at 437 23rd Street South. And Sean Radnick to help us with that one. Sean.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here tonight to present the dangerous building located at 437 23rd Street South. The owner of the property is Cascade Funding Mortgage Trust from Mount Laurel, New Jersey. This building is a single-story structure that was built in 1954 and is currently vacant. During our process, our inspectors have noted the foundation shows evidence of shifting. The electrical system has potential fire hazards. The structure has extensive water damage. The plumbing system is damaged. The HVAC systems are not working due to disassembly, and evidence of rodent harborage is present. As of August 4th, this property has 68 calls for service and within the last 2 years, and it continues to receive calls now. The building meets 9 of the 10 criteria for the dangerous buildings, and we have received a letter from the assessor's office showing the calculated cost to cure the structure exceeds the 50% threshold that's within the ordinance. The list and extent of the violations found by our inspectors, as well as other supporting documentation, is contained within your packet. The timeline for this action, for the action on the building, is as follows. On 11/20/2020, we received the initial complaint for junk in the yard. On 12/17/2020, they received a second violation letter from us and acted appropriately at that point. At 7/1/2021, the water department shut off the water due to non-payment. 10/18/2021, we noticed violations again to them. On 11/15/2021, we gave them a notice of dangerous building. On 11/22/2021, Deputy Assessor determined the building deterioration exceeding 50% of the true and full improvement value. On 12/8/2021, we secured the building. On 5/26/2022, we found it as an unsafe structure, ordered to vacate, secure it, and make repairs as needed. So we gave them basically another chance to bring it up to conformance. On 6/2/2022, we re-secured the building. There had been some possible squatter activity within the building, and there had been squatter activity on this building throughout the whole process. On 8/4/2022, we did a dangerous building notice to them, and an order, the dangerous building notice and order, and the memo was sent to city commissioners for this hearing today. Today we're having the hearing, obviously, and on the 22nd of this month, we're asking for the building to be removed. Excuse me. Here are some pictures of the building. This is the basement. This is how our inspectors found it. You can definitely see some vertical cracking and some foundation issues there. The foundation has been shored up in these areas at one point, but it's not holding anymore. It's deteriorating. You know, there's evidence of a lot of water damage and just unsafe electrical throughout. Can we get to the next image, please? Right key. Okay, here's a door we found sealed because the HVAC system was not working. More evidence of water damage from the roof. This is an electrical wire that was run through the window after it had been secured so that they could have power out in the sheds that had been in back where somebody was living. There's evidence of small fires going on and electrical damage. This is the house after it was secured with the notices posted. Most of the garbage was gone. This is not all the garbage that was in the yard, but there was still some that remained. Here's the shed that the person was living in. More water damage to the floors and walls. Secured garage. And you can see that little hole at the bottom there. That's how the person was getting in and out of this structure to live. More garbage was accumulating. Another electrical outlet that had some kind of arcing and sparking. You can see evidence of a fire that was behind the faceplate there. This is what the structure looked like when we secured it. Most of this has been cleaned up. And this is just evidence of rodent harborage within the walls. Unsafe plumbing. Right here you can see that the water lines are not connected. miscellaneous wiring like this throughout the building. Holes and water damage throughout. We'll skip past that one. There's some more water damage and things. You know, obviously the plumbing system is not working, and just more damage that we found within the home. Once again, the plumbing system's not working. Nobody's been keeping things clean. Here we find rodent harborage again. And this is pretty much most of the walls inside the structure look similar to this. Here's more evidence of unsafe plumbing. And some of the ceiling was collapsing in the basement due to water damage. More water damage, you can see the evidence of it up towards the rafters. This is in the garage. You can see the foundation starting to fail here. This is within the garage as well. More water damage. Here you can see where the foundation is continuing to fail even though they blocked it up. It's got a lot of cracking to it and it's starting to bow in. The ceiling in this room has fallen down completely. This is the HVAC system that somebody saw fit to dismantle, take pieces out, and don't know what they did with them. Unsafe electrical again, there's been some wiring and stuff done that was not permitted. I'm not sure why there's a hole in the floor. And more cracking and stuff of the foundation. These are gas lines that are not hooked up. And here's just an open electrical box. Was for the dryer at one point, but it's been dismantled. And that's the last one I have. This property had sheds in the rear yard and had evidence of squatter activity, and those sheds have been removed. And the property has been cleared of most of the garbage and debris. This structure will show, this still shows evidence of significant damage, and we have very little response from the owner of the property at this point. We ask that you designate this a dangerous building, as Article 21-04 of the Fargo Municipal Code allows. Direct the city attorney to prepare findings of facts and have this building either rehabbed or removed. I'm thinking it's going to have to be removed. Do we have any questions?
Any questions for Sean? John, or Commissioner Cosgrove, I'm sorry.
Sean, I'm just curious as you're going through this, and it's not just about this project and topic, but to what degree do we recoup expenses and investments in properties like this from owners?
As far as the work that we have to do to them?
Yeah.
We assess it back to the property taxes.
So that's assessed back, and if a demolition happens, that's assessed?
Yes.
That's put on the value of the property?
Yes, so if the property were to sell and stuff, they would be liable
Lien?
for those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Preston?
Couple of questions. One is more of a generic question, but the time frame here for all of this to happen, almost 2 years after the first complaint, can it be speeded up or?
Usually it takes a lot less time to go
Okay.
through a dangerous building than this one. This one had some particular challenges with it. We did have an issue trying to find the new owners. So the woman that owned this building passed away, and her nephew was supposed to assume the property, but they just ended up squatting in the property. They never actually took possession of the property, so they were not the owners. The mortgage company that I listed in the beginning, they did take over, but the management company and the realtors that they were working with would not give us their information. It took our inspectors quite a while to find their information and start serving notices and things to them. Without that information of the property owner, it's very difficult to serve a notice and proceed with the dangerous building stuff. So that's why this one took so long, is that it was a very challenging thing to find the owner's actual property or actual address and actually speak to somebody who worked for that company.
Second question is, and this is, may not be totally relevant to this, but do you know if the property taxes have been paid and are they up to date?
I'm not sure if the property taxes are up to date. I do believe they are delinquent as of 2021 taxes, but I'm not 100% positive on that. We've had a number of dangerous buildings come through, and that was one piece of information I forgot to write down for this one.
Any other questions? Otherwise, is there anyone present who wishes to address the city commission regarding this dangerous building? Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. And do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? All those, roll call, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Kolpak,
Aye.
Preston,
Aye.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye. Very good. Thank you, Sean. Moving on to 34B, Simonson Companies, second edition, 5237 38th Street South and 3825, 3863, and 3901 53rd Avenue South. Approval recommended by the Planning Commission on 8/2/22. Explanation, a zoning change to repeal and reestablish a conditional overlay in the limited commercial zoning district. First reading of the rezoning ordinance. Explanation by Donald Kress. Donald.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, Commissioners. Donald Kress with the Department of Planning and Development. Our first item, 34B, as Commissioner Pepcorn has stated here, is a zoning change. The property is located here. There are 4 lots here, located along 52nd Avenue South and 38th Street. This is the intersection of 52nd and I-29. Here's the Walmart and Happy Harry's as our landmarks. This is a zone change not to actually change the zoning, but to repeal an existing conditional overlay and reestablish one that's more appropriate to the property. Commissioners, you're familiar with these conditional overlays. They're usually applied to development along arterial roadways, and they provide site design standards, building design standards, and prohibit or limit certain uses. You've seen many of these before you before. Property looks like this. It's entirely undeveloped. This is Happy Harry's in the background. Credit Union and Essentia Hospital. This is looking north. This is the intersection of 52nd and 38th. Here, again, the property is entirely undeveloped. The zoning here is LC, limited commercial. The actual zoning, again, is not going to change, just the conditional overlay is going to change. As stated in your staff report, prepared by Mr. Mormon of our staff, you'll see a summary of the conditional overlay. These are the things that are going to be retained in the conditional overlay. Basically, we're just simplifying the one that's there. The original conditional overlay was very detailed. Usually, it's actually beyond what we would normally do in a conditional overlay. And so working with the applicant, we are actually making this line up with the conditional overlay to the property adjacent to the west, which is a little more practical for the type of development that's going to be happening there now. The applicant's representative, Blake Carlson of Christensen Companies, is with us this evening and may wish to address the commission. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Any questions for Donald? Is there anyone present who wishes to address the City Commission regarding this rezoning? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Come on up and state your name and use that microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, Blake Carlson with Christensen Companies. I have nothing to add to Donald's report, but I'm available for questions if you have any.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Otherwise, we'll once again ask if anybody's ready to make a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call,
Can I
Shelley.
just ask, what's Boyd gonna put there? What are they gonna put in the commercial zone there?
Do you have a plan for development at this time?
We're in talks with some plans, but nothing that we're ready to release for public just yet.
Very good, thank you. Shelley, roll call, please.
Preston,
Aye.
Colpack. Aye. Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye. Very good. C, West Acres 7th Edition, 1882 39th Street South. Approval recommended by the Planning Commission at 8/2/22. Zoning change from general commercial to MR3, multi-dwelling residential. First reading of the rezoning ordinance. Donald Cross, once again.
Thank you, sir. This one, another zone change. There is no conditional overlay involved in this property, either existing or proposed. This property, you see, is located here along 20th Avenue, 39th Street South, interchange of I-29 and I-94, 42nd Street. This property, if this looks a little bit familiar to you, was recently replatted here a couple of months ago, so you saw that on your consent agenda, divided into 2 lots. The property looks like this. Here we're looking along 39th Street. Here we're looking diagonally across the property, sort of in a northwesterly direction there. It is, this portion of the property is undeveloped. There is some existing buildings on the adjacent lot. The current zoning here is GC, General Commercial. The proposed zoning is MR3 multi-dwelling residential. As the commissioners can tell here, this orange color is existing MR3 multi-dwelling residential. So it is not an unreasonable request to make this property match up to that. In the staff report, again prepared by Mr. Mormon on our staff, you will see the growth plan designation for that supports this change. The applicant's representative, Kevin Hockman of Great States Construction, is with us this evening and may wish to address the commission. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, commissioners.
Do we have any questions for Donald? Is there anyone present who wishes to address the city commission regarding this rezoning? Is there anyone who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Shelley.
Preston.
Aye.
Kolpak. Aye. Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Donald. Next is D. It's a continuation, continued to 9/6/22. Application filed by Roosevelt Family Lofts LLC for a property tax exemption for a project to be located at 711 10th Avenue North, which the applicant will use for market rate multifamily housing and property management services. Is there a motion to continue this hearing to 5:15 on Tuesday, September 6th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call, Shelley.
Strand.
Yes.
Preston.
Aye.
Kolpak. Aye. Mahoney.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye. Next is 36, recommendation to approve amendment number 4 with Apex Engineering to add the westbound to northbound right turn lane at 25th Street South for this 32nd Avenue Reconstruction project. And Tom was supposed to, and instead we get Brenda. Brenda.
Good evening, commissioners. Yes, tonight I'm here to talk about the 32nd Avenue South Street reconstruction projects. So I wanted to first talk about the process. So tonight in front of you, we will have the amendment for our consultant engineer, Apex Engineering, but you're going to see us coming back 2 more times. So we're going to come back, they're going to assemble the paperwork associated with the amendment for the documented CADX, which is our environmental document, and then we will be back in front of you again with the official construction change order with the contractor, Dakota Underground. So adding the right turn lane costs, the engineering consultant fees to do the associated paperwork and the design is about just under $10,000, $9,696, which is about 1% of their total contract. And then looking at the bid unit prices, are estimated of construction costs for adding that turn lane is $54,000, which you can see is about 0.27 of the total contract, which is almost $20 million. So I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. With the current configuration, no improvements, the boulevard width on that north side is about 2 feet from the edge of sidewalk to the back of curb, and the crossing pedestrian distance is about 92 feet. Now, as designed currently without the turn lane, that boulevard space is about 18.5 feet, and the crossing is about 61 feet. With adding the turn lane in, that reduces that North Boulevard to about 7.5 feet, and then the crossing width there will be about 72 feet. And just to kind of give you a visual, this is what it looks like today in that corner of 32nd Avenue and 25th Street. And then these are examples. So on the left, what you're gonna see is the width of boulevard without the turn lane. And then on the right, what you look at is the width of the boulevard with the right turn lane. So just kind of, sometimes when you give a foot, it's just a footage, visually it's hard to see what is that distance and what would that look like. And so today you have our recommended motion, which is to approve the westbound and northbound right turn lane at 25th Street to the project. and approve Apex Amendment, Engineering Amendment number 4.
Do I have any questions for Brenda? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Brenda. You know, as I recall, this discussion was primarily affected by pedestrian safety concerns and bicycle safety concerns. Help me understand why this would be safer to add that right turn lane versus not.
So, I'm just trying to, so as why it would be safer. So sometimes, right, there's always two ways we look at evaluation of roadways. Some of the bicyclists have said it's, when you have that designated turn lane, you know you're anticipating the turn. And so they understand the vehicles are turning. Sometimes without that turn lane, it's hard, not everyone uses their blinker. You can't always anticipate if that person is using the right turn lane. In regards to pedestrians crossing, the timing of the signals are such that we time them to give the pedestrians enough time to cross the whole roadway segment. So historically, we have put in 6-foot refuges in the wider roadway networks, and it's just not a comfortable place to be at. And so we extend those signal timings to allow that crossing. Now, right turn lane or no turn lane, I don't think engineering's claimed that, oh, this is safer. What we're saying is there is an impact to the traveling public when you remove that turn lane. Now, the traffic counts are not extremely high, but there will be an impact to that vehicular movement. I've heard both sides, as I've stated before, in pedestrian and bicycle safety, as sometimes it's nice to see those cars in the turn lane. You know they're turning, signal or no signal, you know they're turning because they're in that designated lane. So you can be more proactive and be watching what that vehicle movement is doing. And so you can see both sides of that.
And if I might just continue, one of the concerns the public has expressed to us is the speed of being able to get through this area. I'm hearing it differently tonight, though, in my brain, that if we add the right turn lane, we're going to slow the traffic down versus speed it up?
No, we would not slow the traffic down by putting the turn lane in.
But there's a timing,
Well, correct. So we have always, Jeremy works on those signal timings to make sure we have enough time frame for pedestrians to get across. That's how it is today too. And so that would not change as what you see today. What we have done to try and facilitate that slowing of traffic is, back when 32nd Avenue was originally designed, the standard was 12-foot lanes. 12-foot lanes plus gutter, which is typically about 30 inches, 2.5 feet. So it gets to be a very wide roadway segment. Today, 11-foot lanes is acceptable, and by shrinking those lanes a little bit, you've got that proximity which naturally will slow traffic down. And then we have added some landscape medians throughout the corridor to even create that narrowness as you go through.
Any other questions? Commissioner Preston?
So I'm going to just make a couple of statements here. One is the right turn lanes actually are one of the more dangerous for pedestrians as you are coming, not necessarily stepping down on the curb and crossing from that side, but when you're coming from the opposite side and there's two cars in the two lanes, it hides the cars that are coming up to turn right. and they will come right up into the crosswalk. I've had personal experience with that numerous times. So right turn lanes are definitely not more safe from that perspective, from a pedestrian bicyclist perspective coming from the other direction. I just, this is not a hill to die on for sure, but I just want to state that I will be voting against this, mainly again because we have heard multiple times from various focus groups that we've engaged on our numerous different neighborhood and strategic plans to make our streets more pedestrian friendly. And I'm glad to see that the entire crossing is less and the 11-foot lanes certainly will help. But I would have supported keeping the right turn lane out, so I will be voting no.
I have a quick comment, and then, do you have a comment or a question? Well, I'm going to go first, if you don't mind. So my main thing is 32nd Avenue, that's a high-capacity street. And I think we're growing, and we're going to keep growing in that area. And if we start reducing the capacity, which is what you'd be doing, I think that would cause more problems down the road and in the future, because the capacity numbers are going to keep growing on that street. So that's the main thing. I think we all agree that pedestrian safety, that's very important. But the flip side of it is they're streets for handling cars. And so you want to make them as safe as possible. But at the end of the day, they're for handling traffic. And so that's my comments. Commissioner Kolpak.
I had a very similar comment about this being a thoroughfare road, and after meeting with engineering several times on this topic, I am more comfortable now with the reduced 11-foot roadways and the overall width, and certainly trust engineering for safety across. So I, of course, am going to be supporting this addition.
Mayor, do you have any comments?
Yeah, being in the neighborhood, I've heard a lot from my neighbors about this area. It's a very busy area, and in fact, of people coming and going to work, but also the commerce in the area. I've heard a lot of comments that people would rather have that right turn lane because if you're headed west, it just makes it more difficult at the end of a workday. So I'd be very strongly for it, and I think engineering has done a great job about reducing the width of the lanes. And as you saw in Brenda's chart, it actually decreases the length that people have to walk across that intersection. Also worked with Jeremy and the timing of people. I think it will not slow traffic down that much and they'll be able to get through. And concur with her that if you're turning right, you should look for pedestrians as they're there, but they're turning right. It's not a guessing game where somebody might turn right or might not, and you start to walk out that walkway and they come right at you. So I'm going to support this motion.
Commissioner Strand.
Thank you. I'm just curious. I don't know that I've heard data or not that how safe has this intersection been? Do we have any knowledge of previous incidents or pedestrian, bicycle, car interactions that weren't, do we know, has there been anything?
I can get you that information. We just received the most current crash data throughout the city, throughout the state of North Dakota. So I can get that to you. I just don't have the information at my fingertips. I do know it's not ranked. It's not our top intersection that has problems.
But this will be coming through to us again, and so you'll have that information for us too as well. We'd appreciate that. If that's okay, I think that'd be good. And just getting it to Commissioner Strand.
Yep, I will.
Thank you.
One more question,
Yep,
sorry.
Commissioner Preston.
What is the traffic count on 32nd up to coming from the east, or from the west, I'm sorry. No, from the east, sorry.
From the east. Honestly, I don't have those numbers in my head.
Oh,
I know the
okay.
turn lane count is 100, but I can get that information to you. I know it increases dramatically west of 25th
Right.
Street. So it's much lower east and
East.
increases west of 25th Street.
Increases west.
It
yes.
increases, yes. So on the east side where the turn lane will be, it's much lower than the west side
And you said that's 100 on the turn lane
in the turn lane.
per day? Okay.
So I think, Brenda, if you could have that information at the next one too, I think that'd be good for us, just for our own information.
And I'll get that out in an email too.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, is somebody willing to make a motion?
I will make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. I'm going to, every chance I can, defer, even if it's in error, to the enhanced safety for the people. You know, I'm not as worried about cars and how many cars and how fast the cars go on arterial roads. You put a car against a bike or a person, there's no comparison of who's going to win. So, you know, I remember when our discussion happened about Main Avenue, and our initial foray into the Main Avenue East End was to make it 5 or 6 lanes. And we had the exact same discussion. Do we want something akin to a highway going through the middle of the city or not? And again, 32nd Avenue is not the same, but my decision will be for the safety of the people. I don't care if it's none. If it's one, it's too many, if there's an incident.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Shelley, roll call, please.
Colpack,
Aye.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Preston,
No.
Strand,
No.
Pepcorn,
Aye, motion carries. And number 37 is recommendation for appointment to the Economic Development Incentives Committee. You have the mayor's recommendation. I don't know if there's any comments or questions. Is there a motion if there isn't?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Colpack,
Aye.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye. And now we're going to go back. The consent agenda, we had a couple of items that were taken off. And number 2 was waive requirement to receive and file an ordinance 1 week prior to the first reading and the first reading of the following ordinances relating to the noise control and interference. That's C. And D is relating to the use and care of streets and sidewalks. And Nancy and Nicole are going to get us started with that. Nicole?
Well, I'll kick it off to Nancy, but basically in front of you, after discussions with community members and getting lots of feedback from citizens, we've started this discussion back in, I believe, end of May, early June, and we're in front of you tonight with some pretty light touch to the ordinances. I'll let Nancy kind of explain the summary of those if you have any questions, and they're up on the, kind of in summary up on the PowerPoint as well. So maybe I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Thank you. Yes, they are light touches to the ordinances. There was some discussion and complaints about noise in the downtown area. The police department suggested that the 55 decibel that was in place be increased, and regardless of whether amplification is used or not, that the 65 decibel be the top limit of noise without an event permit for amplified sound exceeding that amount. And that was between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., which is the hours that are permitted for the street performers and entertainers. And then also dealing with the sidewalk entertainers, there was some question raised as to permitting and whether or not they could continue to use amplified sound. The answer is that they do not need a permit. So we removed all of the requirements for the permitting, but they still have the rules that were already in place that would be applicable to their activities on the sidewalk, and that they would be able to use amplified sound up to the specified decibel level, which was changed to 65 rather than the 55, which is normal conversation, which would address the music and amplification being used. With that, we are looking at enforcement, and we addressed this with the municipal court, and through the bond schedule, it's already been determined to be an infraction by ordinance, and the recommendation is for a $100 infraction to be applied for the bond schedule. So the police have that enforcement availability.
Do we have any questions? I guess I have one, if you don't mind starting out. So now we have a unified, so when you apply for this, who do you go get it from? And tell us about that process.
So the process is changed with respect to the event permits. If you wish to exceed the 65 decibels at any time, you will need to receive an event permit for that amplification from the police department. No permit request from planning department for that.
Okay. Commissioner Kolpak.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank those who have testified up to this point before meetings, getting us to this place. I also appreciate the fact that we held, this staff and the mayor held a meeting with the vendors for more information and feedback, which they took to heart in preparing these mitigating solutions, I would say. I commend the police department, planning, and the city attorney for the work that actually ended up happening fairly quickly on city standard time. And I will say that I've reached out to a couple of the downtown residents who were complaining about these problems and have been pretty vocal. And they said they've already seen improvement after the last couple of weeks because of the enforcement that now is in place. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Preston.
So to counter the feedback you've gotten, I still continue to hear from an individual that lives close to one of the performers. And the issue, it seems to me, but I believe it's being taken care of, is on the enforcement side. And that's going to be the trick in all of this, is when a person calls, the police officer has to have a decibel reader, and it needs to be enforced. Now, as I understood from this individual, this person called 3 or 4 times in a weekend and got no response. So if you could just address that, Chief.
Sure. Now that we have a uniform standard, we will have sufficient decibel readers so that our officers will be able to enforce, and we will do so.
Is there a possibility of doing this in a more proactive way? Somebody that is downtown all the time that can be monitoring so that people don't have to keep calling in complaints and waiting if the police officers are busy?
Oh, well, they won't have to call if we're down there patrolling, and they'll have decibel meters with them. So the DROs and officers assigned to those beats. So we'll have sufficient decibel meters so that we can have multiple officers monitoring or responding to complaints and then taking action from there.
Okay, so the concern from this particular citizen was that when they called, it got stopped right there with the phone call. That's been corrected?
I'm not sure I understand.
It didn't get referred on to a police officer because they were told that there was nothing that could be done.
I think that may have happened during the period we've been going through where we didn't have, without a citizen complainant, we couldn't take any action because of the variables in the decibels and or the amplified permit issue. And so with these changes, we'll have kind of an even keel of enforcement. The permit is really of no issue whatsoever. It doesn't really matter if you have a permit or not. It's now about the decibel limit.
Right.
And that gives us a lot more ability to enforce and respond to those complaints.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Kolpak.
Appreciate your questions, Commissioner Preston. Thank you.
Commissioner Strand.
Nancy, could you help me better understand the enforcement fines, what they are now versus what they will be, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, actually, that wasn't a change. It was previously an infraction, but we recognized that the police department did not have the guidance that they were looking for in order to enforce that ordinance. So we worked with the municipal court and clerk's office to add that to the bond schedule with a recommendation by the court of a $100 fine for a violation of that offense. So it's not a change, it's more of a clarification.
And if I might continue, that $100 recommendation for a fine, how does the affected industry respond to that? Because they're probably not accustomed to that being triggered or activated. So this would be, the enforcement of it probably would be new. Is it reasonable, or are they okay with it, or do they want it gone, or?
Well, that I don't know. Of course, it's a question of compliance with the ordinance on the noise levels. We did talk about, education and warnings. So I do think that the police will be involved in providing that opportunity for compliance.
And just bear with me, but so somebody calls in, they have this noise ordinance, the police show up, and do they arrest them? Do they cite them? Do they take them in? Chief, if you could help me just understand, how does this unfold? What happens to them? And I'll hold my editorial comment for the moment, but.
Sure. Well, an infraction, help me, Nancy, I think is a referral, right, to the prosecutor?
Correct.
Right, so they wouldn't get arrested unless there was some other warrant or some other criminal violation that was occurring. Now, if they would continue the same activity, I think that we would look for a different solution. We've had some instances, and again, we've been in a period of gray water, if you will, where we've got some people who continually create disturbances. They've been causing a lot of concerns with our downtown residents. We're going to come out of that gray period now with some clear guidance and enforcement ability, and we're going to enforce it. So we will certainly advise folks, but to be honest with you, we've had these discussions many times over, and in some sense, some of the existing folks have taken advantage of our inability to enforce. So there's not a lot of education that's needed here. It'll be really simple. And I think the decibel limit is very reasonable in terms of being able to abide by it and our ability to measure it and determine that they're above and beyond.
And if that enforcement, remind me, Chief, is there a warning that's issued in this new approach, that they get a warning the first time, or a few, something like that?
I think it's dependent on the situation. We've got the discretion to provide a warning. We've got the discretion to refer for the infraction.
Okay, thank you.
I think the bottom line there, it says no changes to the push cart regulations. That's important to point that out as well. And I want to thank, obviously, with several departments working together, and I do think having a consistent message across that will help the confusion too. I think that was part of the issue too, that people were going to different people and having different answers. And so thank you for your work with that. Any other comments? Commissioner Preston.
If I could just clarify on that, because there are push carts that have been using amplified sound. So the decibel level would apply to them as well, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, if we're ready for a motion, are we?
Commissioner Popcorn?
Yes, go
Commissioner
ahead.
Popcorn?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Arlette is right. When we met with the food cart pushers, they do have amplified sounds, and they realize that they have to watch what they do as well. I want to thank Dr. Hogan. He went out and went to all the food trucks one evening on one weekend and got to hear a lot of the difficulties that they had with the food trucks in that industry as well. There were some safety concerns that sometimes happen late at night, and there were some concerns of maybe the police could be more present and patrolling at 2 to 3 in the morning. But he had a good analysis and worked with many people who run the food trucks, good people trying to do a good job. And they also were concerned about decibels that are different food carts or other people that dump down the street.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments? I don't know if there's anybody from the public. We had lots of public interest in it, but I think we've kind of, the staff has done a great job of working with them. So if we're ready for a motion,
I'll make the motion.
and do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call, please, Shelley.
Kolpak,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye. Last item on the agenda is the settlement agreement, Tax Increment Finance District number 2019-02 with Roars Development Incorporated and NC Land Lease LLC. Commissioner Strand requested to have this moved from the consent agenda. Commissioner Strand.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just feel that this topic has been in front of us for so many months and has had so much public interest. And there have been a lot of aspects of it that we need to probably bring to full circle and show a conclusion and a resolution of it. but I'll defer to our legal counsel to tell the public the tone and the gist of the settlement, if you would, Nancy.
Sure. So this is a settlement of the notice of default that was served on Roars Development, Inc., and it addresses the completion of the 7 townhomes, the minimum improvements that were identified in the developer agreement. The completion deadline is now extended to May 31st, 2023, and the penalty for that, if there is a failure to complete the entire build-out of the townhomes, interior and exterior, it's $300 per day per unfinished townhome with a maximum of $2,100. Again, the TIF amount would then be paid when the build-out is complete and the improvements accepted. At that time, capitalized interest would begin to accrue and the TIF payment would be prorated. Beyond that, we did strike the unavoidable delays, which was the basis of the settlement discussion. The developer had argued that the completion was not done by December 31st, 2021 due to unavoidable delays. This now includes a force majeure provision, which is tighter. Act of God would only be the reasons that this would be extended at any time. The notice of withdrawal is, or notice of default is withdrawn. If there is a default in subsequent building of this, a new notice would be issued, and it would recommence the default period under the terms of the agreement.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make the recommended motion, please. Or I move it.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Preston has a comment?
I'm trying to remember. It seems like I saw someplace the dedication of the TIF payment that's going to be withheld for that year and a half, that was to be set aside. And I'm not laying my eyes on it right now. Is it in the agreement or was that something separate?
It is in the agreement to the extent that it would be, those payments would be used in accordance with the renewal plan that was previously approved in 2019-02. So it wasn't taking those funds separate. That's always been the intention, is my understanding. The renewal plan is how those additional TIF funds could be used for that development.
For some reason, I remember seeing something about it being dedicated to the Roosevelt neighborhood. Is that what you're saying in the renewal plan, or?
Well, I think that was what was proposed, but that really isn't something that was provided for under the renewal plan or the development agreement. It is provided for the use of in the renewal district that benefits from the TIF. It's
Nancy, I think what she's referring to is in the TIF payments, the first TIF payments will go to the planning department to be used in the neighborhood. So those first 2 years of payments, which before went to Roars, is now going to the neighborhood. Then after that, it will go to Roars. Then when it comes out, it goes back to the neighborhood. But the new arrangement also puts money in the TIF to the neighborhood every year. So there is a change in how we do the distribution of the money in the TIF. So Commissioner Preston is right. It's different than it was before, and it offers the neighborhood some money for rehabilitation, which would go to the Roosevelt neighborhood through planning.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just
Go ahead.
ask Nicole to come up and address. So those dollars will be set aside in a separate line account. And I just don't want those dollars to get absorbed and lost somehow.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really prepared to talk about that today.
Okay.
So it's really been under the discussion of you all with the city attorney at this point. I'm aware of future plans with the neighborhood and as part of the core neighborhood plan and in communications, but it's in terms of how the money's tracked and how it's coordinated. I guess I'm not prepared to talk about that yet today.
At least we are embarking on a process to put together a much more detailed plan for the Roosevelt neighborhood. And hopefully, these funds could be used.
Yeah.
Result of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Any further comments? Otherwise, we will, actually, we have a motion and a second, so roll call, Shelley.
Preston,
Aye.
Kolpak,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye, and I apologize, we went out of order a little bit. The liaison commissioner assignment updates, if anybody has any updates they would like to share, or whatever order you wish to go in, feel free. Go ahead, Commissioner Strand, if you want to.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a couple topics I'd like to address, but most importantly, I want all of you to know that in the background, we have an immense amount of activity unfolding, addressing the opioids and the addictions and the overdoses in our community. It's absolutely a crisis almost right now. We were close to having a report on tonight's agenda, but we deferred to wait 2 weeks because of some very critical information coming. So you all know Mayor Mahoney has parsed out aspects of what used to be under the public health portfolio, and I am focusing with Jan Eliason and public health folks on the addictions issues. We used to have the Blue Ribbon Commission in place, which doesn't exist anymore, but we're reinventing right now every day our approach to this, and we're going to be bringing teams of people to the table to help look at this, not just in Fargo, but in West Fargo, and as much as we can across the river. There's no overstating how critical this is. On my way here tonight, I'm looking over into the park and seeing a whole bunch of emergency responders, and my little voice is telling me I'm guessing, I hope it's not an overdose. But I think a few weekends ago, we had 3 in one weekend. We have these M30 pills out there that are people think they're getting Percocet painkillers and they're laced with fentanyl. There's a debate about fentanyl being laced into marijuana, street marijuana right now. This is absolutely an urgent evolving of a public safety issue in our community. So you all know Jan Eliason and the Harm Reduction Center and the Public Health and the Gladys Ray Center, and especially the Mobile Outreach Unit. What we have going on with our Mobile Outreach Unit, if somebody sees something, they can call the Mobile Outreach Unit versus calling law enforcement or calling ambulances and calling medical people, and it doesn't escalate it. It gets them into help with counselors and people soon. That model we have is a national model. What we have with the state and with Fargo with the Mobile Outreach Unit is an absolute national model of what people are doing as to how to address this overdose problem. Another minor aspect of that is our governor will be doing a ride-along in the near future to get a firsthand look at that. Lastly, I'll just say that, and that's a big topic. It's all over the place. But lastly, I'll just say, keep an eye on the airport. We have some really tremendous movement in our airport planning out there. We're going to be seeing a huge revamping and expansion of our airport and of our services. It's going to put Fargo on the map in very different ways. So it'll be fun to watch the design evolve in the facilities. They've kind of gotten down to the airport, how many planes they will service at a time and so on. But now it's going to get to the fun part where they put the design aspects onto the new architectural plans. It's going to be really fun to see. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kolpak.
Thank you, Commissioner Strand. I have several updates with the communication team of Florida media advisories over the past several weeks, including some great coverage and support for the fire department recruitment currently underway. And the communication team, as you know, is responsible for the FOIA requests, 7,200 each year, and they're going to be implementing a new system beginning in September that will make the process much more automated. Fire department, today they kicked off the next fire academy for 10 weeks with 4 new recruits. The station number 8 site layout has begun, and station number 2 design has started. And congratulations to Chief Dirksen, recently elected as the president of the Missouri Valley Division of Fire Chiefs. Water treatment update, water utility Red River Pump Station improvements update. Construction of the River Pump Station improvements are nearing completion, which is directly east of the water treatment plant along the Red River. And the project primarily focuses on flood protection and a pumping capacity increase along with some other improvements. They utilized grant funding that included $3.56 million FEMA grant and a grant from the North Dakota Department of Water Resources for the new pumps. Water reclamation, the construction project at the Fargo Regional Water Reclamation Facility is over 60% complete, which will double the existing capacity to ultimately serve a population of 271,000. And construction remains on schedule, even with supply chain and labor challenges over the last 2 years. Solid waste, the cell number 20 construction project is currently underway at the East Landfill. This is phase 3 of the former landfill reclamation and reuse project. The reclaimed landfill will handle all of the city waste needs over that time. And City of Fargo residents continue to recycle at an amazing pace. The current all-in-one recycling program has a residential participation rate of 83%, which is incredible, and responsible for the diversion of approximately 400 to 4,500 tons of material per year. Just a couple more updates. Arts and Culture Commission. This is exciting too. The RFP for the exterior art panels, which was released earlier this summer, was awarded to Brett Linsney. And installation of the art panels is scheduled for early fall. He's an artist, graphic designer, and educator living in downtown Fargo. And staff is coordinating details of 3 to 4 more public art projects that we hope to kick off this fall. More to come. And the last Human Rights Commission had a very important meeting last Thursday. It was my first meeting with them, and they are going to be updating their work plan and beginning implementation of that work plan in a much more visible way. They also issued a very important public statement in support of the Fargo School Board members who faced significant backlash over the past weeks. Those are my updates.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I just really have one additional update, and that is in relationship to what Commissioner Strand was talking about in the opioid issue. The Board of Health at its last meeting had some conversation about the settlement that is coming down the road with the opioid producers, manufacturers, and some pretty, as I understood from the Cass County Commissioner who sits on the Board of Health, indicated that there's some pretty clear restrictions in regards to how those dollars can be used. So it would make sense that probably there would be some funding available to use on the opioid issue. I understand we'll be getting a report with more detail on those restrictions and how we can use it in by the end of this week or so. So we'll have a better idea at that point. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Mahoney?
No comment at this time, Dave. I'll wait till next week.
Thank you very much. And my liaisons are engineering. Brenda was already here and did a great job, and inspections as well. Sean did that, so I'm not going to add a whole lot more. They're a lot smarter, and that's their expertise. So, Commissioner Strand, I don't know if you have any special announcements?
I don't.
Very good. With that, we will move to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.